and welcome back to The Possibility in the Universe. I am Chani, and I am so delighted to be here with my friend and co-host, Rivky Gross. This week's episode is The Possibility in Creating the Possibility, and this is the first of a two-part series. So excited to jump into the topic of the retreats that we have been working together to offer to the universe. Rivky is definitely the one who holds the torch, and I am so excited. I'm so happy and humbled to be a part of this experience that she offers into the world for women to have the opportunity to step into thriving, into vitality, into aliveness, into joy, and into all that they are here to be in this universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, as we do every podcast, let's back up before we jump in.
Yes.
And so I want to talk about the process of what it takes to be ready to even consider this opportunity for yourself and what that intake looks like.
Yes. Well, I think what's really important to share even before that is to share a little bit about what these retreats are, because some of the people listening to this are avid listeners of our podcast and came on one or maybe even more than one retreat or know one or both of us. And some are just meeting us maybe even for the first time and wanting to find out about what in the world we're creating and offering.
Good point.
Yeah.
So even from the more beginning than
Even more beginning than that.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I will say that while these retreats are my creation, they would not be the way that they are without you in your role as the Chief of Nourishment. There is no way that they would hold the same power, the same resonance, the same coherence, the same frequency alone. And one of our participants said on the retreat, only together and better together. And it really does prove to be that way for this. And it's been an incredible journey of collaboration, which we'll get into later. But our last retreat took place in Tuscany, in the rolling hills of Tuscany. It's a very exclusive retreat. It's a new kind of healing retreat. It is not a typical healing retreat. It does not, for a few reasons. One, for what happens before the retreat. One, what happens on the retreat. One, the people who are attracted to the retreat. And lastly, what happens after the retreat. And in this retreat, what the purpose of it is to expand our capacities, our nervous systems and souls to believe, receive, and create more than one ever thought possible. So it's not about creating one shift. It's about creating a profound shift on the level of your subconscious beyond your wildest imagination.
Yes.
Which is a totally different frequency. I started off as a therapist. I was working with children, doing work with children with autism and other developmental delays. Thought that I was going to be doing it for the rest of my life. Went to school for social work. And while I was there, I was also on my own healing journey and learning a lot about somatic healing and breath work and body work and hypnotherapy and my own soul and my own self and my own trauma and my own body. And slowly this work started to unravel. And then I came to this place where I recognized that healing took so much out of me and so many others who are on a journey of really, truly doing genuine healing and self-growth. I'm not talking about sitting in a circle with candles and flowers. I'm talking about actually moving the needle on our soul's journey and seeing the world as it is and not as our trauma shaped us to see it. I'm talking about real, genuine changes on the level of actions, on the level of our mind, on the level of our body. And what I noticed is that nothing has asked more of me than my journey towards abundance, than my journey towards enjoying life, than my journey towards being visible, than my journey towards being genuinely connected and relational with myself, with God, with the world, with the cosmos. And I recognized that their healing was taking people, the kind of healing that most people are doing in the world are taking them to a certain level, but there's so much life after that people were not getting access to. There was so much free will that people were not realizing that they had. There was so much faith and living life with God that people were not noticing. They were getting stuck on this like rabbit hole in this cycle of something much more small. So this retreat, after this was our 7th retreat that we did together. After the 6th one, I renamed them the Frequency of Freedom, because while we do somatic work, we do all kinds of nervous system work, we do all kinds of therapeutic work, we also do a lot of frequency healing. We create shifts on the level of our frequency, on the level of our vibration, and the level of our energy in a way that's not, it's not, sometimes people do energy work and it seems so woo and you're like, what just happened? It's not like that. It's like you have full access to everything that's happening to you, and you get to just understand and have a relationship with energy in a totally new way. So what we do is we step into a powerful frequency of freedom and a deep embodiment, an embodied experience of who you really are. And we also have a lot of fun, learn a tremendous amount. We learn a lot by what moves through each of us. We each become a channel and a vessel to move massive medicinal wisdom and beautiful, beautiful healing for everybody in the space. And I think the thing that is the most expansive to me is the women who get attracted to this experience. And that's how we'll get into your question. Multiple people have told me multiple times that they feel so excited about joining this retreat because they're like, other women who are investing in themselves in this way, I want to spend time with them. Like, I want to know them. I want to be in the same room as them. I want to be expanded by them. I want to teach them. I want to learn from them. And that's really the kind of space that we're creating. So
Yes.
I know that I just gave like a little template for what we're walking into. And I would love if you could ask me your question again, get into it.
Yeah. First of all, yes. It's to hear you articulate the experience that I have now been in 7 times around is so beautiful. And to know it in this embodied way in my being, and to have witnessed each woman step into themselves in such a gorgeous embodied way. And also the way that each one offers the medicine for the other. Each person's experience somehow offers some sort of seeing, understanding, shift, awakening, like something that, I'm going through my experience and maybe that's my intimate experience. But when it's shared in a group, everybody receives something through that's so human and so healing. And it's just, it really is so magical.
Yeah. And I was going to say that, we use a lot of these words and we're throwing them around like healing, like magical, like wondrous, like miraculous. And sometimes for people who have been in other spaces before where words are thrown around loosely, sometimes it could be like a bit of an eye roll. Okay. And I'm here to say, and I know that you've experienced 7 other of these experiences with me, the words that we're using are actually limiting to describe the wonder, the miraculousness, the vastness, the infiniteness of what the experience actually is. And that's something that I recognized after this time. I'm like, the words people use in their testimonials and the words that we use to describe it, like they are actually limiting to what we actually experience, because it's actually so much more than this.
Yeah. I think that the reason why it's so much more than this is because there is a very powerful spiritual element here that can't be limited. Yeah. And once you invite the energy of the divine into the space, becomes unlimited. And in that, all possibilities are available to all of those that are willing to dip into it. And so I think it's a very unique blend of everything therapeutic and everything here and now together with the divine feminine in a way that is truly empowering and really allows you access to what is beyond all of the narrow vision that comes through trauma and conditioning and, all the ways that we were taught that it needs to be or has to be or what's good or what's bad. It's once you invite the divine into the space,
we're not limited anymore to any of those ideas. So it's really like nothing else. It really, truly is.
Truly.
Yeah.
And I think what makes this specific experience so unique, and I really hope and I pray that even if someone who's listening to this never has the opportunity to join this experience, they get to experience some of the vibration that it puts out into the world. So I just want to set that intention, because I know that our words are powerful and my words are powerful, and I want that for everybody. I really,
Amen.
really, really do. And what I will say is that I think what's so unique about this experience is that it's a really, you're able to touch it. It's not something that happens outside of the body. A lot of psychedelic experiences can often happen in disassociated states, which is really wonderful because we can access things that we maybe can't access that are beyond the confines of our vessel. And while that's really beautiful and important, what we're doing here is that we're creating more capacity within our vessel to channel and hold and receive and believe more possibilities and feel more of Hashem, God, inside of our bodies. And that means that this experience is incredibly grounded. I have a really important interview process that people are only joining if they're really grounded in themselves, in their work, in life, in their humanity. Like, the people joining are not like floating in the ethers. They're like, they have regular days. They know how to contend with their sadness. They're not like flying off on a cloud of endorphins. They're like really genuinely here. Some days are more challenging, some days are more blissful, but there's something really grounded about that I look for and I desire in each person coming, no matter where they're coming from, their age, their stage, their motherhood or not. Like that matters less to me. Are you grounded in your life? Are you grounded in this work? Are you grounded in the divine? Are you grounded in genuinely being able to the level that you're able to be honest about your life? Are you grounded in the fact that you're human? And there's always going to be things that you're human about. Do you accept that?
Yeah.
Because that creates a resonance field that's very safe for everyone involved, where we can drop into the deepest vulnerabilities and not only our vulnerabilities of being small, but our vulnerabilities around being vast and infinite, both, while knowing that there's this common thread of humanity and of resonance that kind of like pulls through this experience. And we use somatic healing throughout this retreat to really ground every single energy into our body, to really create the experience of cohesiveness and coherence. So it's not this like peak experience where you're blown out of the water and you experience like fragmentation of some sort and you're like, oh my God, I'm a soul, I'm awakened. What the hell do I do now? It's a lot more integrative than that, while still being a lot more wild than you could ever imagine in your mind, both. And I think that's the magic in it. Like, you expect to see the most divinity you ever saw, and you find it inside of your sisters and your own humanity.
Yes.
And that is what is so moving time and time again, like finding the divine in the things that make us the most human, finding the divine in the things that make us the most traumatized, finding the divine in the things that make us the most afraid, and still shining anyways, always shining anyways.
Yeah. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Yeah, I want to talk more about boundaries. I want to talk about the unique quality of this container that allows for all of this to move, that I have witnessed, that is such a reflection of the boundaries that you create. There is the idea of chesed, kindness, and then gevura, which is like more strength and boundaries, and the way that you really set the tone for the masculine boundary before we allow ourselves to, soften into the feminine that creates something really balanced and really strong to hold everything that we're going to go through.
I love this question because there's so much to say on it, and it's, surprise, way more nuanced and dynamic than most people give boundaries credit for. Like, having gone to social work school, there are these very clear boundaries that people they talk about, right? And in social work school, they don't talk much about love and about God, which I talk about most of the day. but they do talk a lot about boundaries. And I learned a tremendous amount in social work school about boundaries and in all the trainings that I've learned. But I've never learned more about boundaries than when I've learned to have a sense of self. Because the truth is that boundaries have to come from an embodied place in order to be real, in order to land in the resonance field in ways that are safe. And they must have certain lines, and they must also be dynamic and fluid because they come from us. For example, I'm not going to have the same boundaries with you, who is my friend, than with my client. And even in terms of my clients, there are clients who I see for one-on-one sessions, and I don't hug my clients. And on retreats, or on medicine without medicine nights, I'll give such warm, delicious hugs. And that will be totally part of the process of the healing and the holding and the beauty that's there. And where'd that come from? It didn't come from because somebody told me to in a manual. It didn't come from because I learned it in school. That came from an understanding of what I'm trying to create in each place and responding to that. And some of the boundaries that I have on the retreats could feel, it depends how they hit your nervous system. For some people, it could feel super containing. For some people, they could be like, oh, they could feel like I'm being like their mother, like there are all kinds of boundaries, like who's invited into the space, not because we don't love everybody, but because we need to create a really strong field of coherence of people who are deeply determined and ready to do this work. I have asked multiple people over the time to write me letters of commitment to themselves of what they're willing to commit to absolutely in order to join this retreat and sign it. And they have, and they followed through. My desire for this retreat is not for people to plug into me as some kind of healer, guru, or shaman, because I am really, as we all are, connected to Hashem and to energy. And sometimes it could seem like, oh my God, she did something so cool. And people can lose sight of the fact that that's not the point. It's not the point. You need to plug into yourself, into your self-trust, into Hashem. So a big part of my boundaries is reminding people that I'm not your healer, that I'm not your guru, that I'm not a shaman, that I am a woman with a mission to help others plug themselves back into the God of their own understanding and their own power and their own power source, which is always the source of all things, which is always Hashem. And sometimes I do that by telling people, there was a woman on one of our retreats who was like, Rivky, I know we were in a very deep process around moving energy that she had been carrying for a long time. And she's, Rivky, I can't do the last little bit. Like, I'm so tired. I need you to move this for me. And I said, I will not steal from you. I will not steal from you. I will not give you the illusion that I am more powerful than you. That is not okay. That would be stealing. And I find that, in a lot of healing spaces, people have all these like really amazing quote unquote boundaries where they're like, they won't talk to a client in between a session, or they won't give or receive a gift, or they won't, etc., or whatever it is. But like when it comes to stealing their power, they're very quick, and it's very easy for them to do that. And there is no judgment there. It's nobody's fault. It's what our society has taught us to create. And my desire for boundaries is for them to be true, like for them to really come from an internal place so that people understand and restore their own internal boundaries as well. And my favorite, I noticed that I create a space like this because I noticed that people don't people please me.
Yes.
Which in many healing spaces, when there's someone on quote unquote, there's like a hierarchy and someone's the leader, often it happens that like somebody doesn't want to maybe share something because then it would be challenging for them or whatever. And I noticed time and time again, people are willing to be honest with me because people are willing to take me off the pedestal because I do it first. And I work with people who are leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, healers, therapists, practitioners, both in the healing space and without. And I want to model what's possible, not in a non-hierarchical, because I do charge money. So I do take my leadership role, but a much less hierarchical healing space.
Yeah, thanks for making that so clear and understood. Yeah. And I hope that the audience can really feel into that energy of the power that we hold within ourselves and the sacred medicine that we have inside of ourselves. And when you as the guide, keep orienting your participants back to themselves, they keep remembering their own power, their own goodness, their own innocence, their own beauty, their own abilities, their own power. It's really, I mean, I've been on these retreats and I see it happen again, and how easily we want that, that quick fix that someone else can just make it better for us so that we don't have to do the work that sometimes is challenging to do. But the beautiful way that you guide everyone back to themselves, because that's where the ultimate medicine lies. It's like we have it inside of ourselves, and it's really just like there is nothing else.
Yeah. There are certain times for a healing journey, right? Just like there are certain aspects of life on your growth journey, right? Let's say you have a baby. Like there's a time for you to create the baby. There's a time for you to grow the baby. There's a time for you to birth the baby. There's a time for you to like coalesce and rest after the baby. There's a time for you to start exercising again and build back your body after the baby. There's a time for you to decide if you want another baby. Like there's so many, right? And in life, it's the same thing in healing. There's different times for different things. And this is not for everybody.
Yeah.
This is not for everybody where everybody's at. Sometimes when somebody's not in the experience of being able to create yet, because first they need to just build awareness, or first they need to be able to be held, or first they need to be able to be a victim before they're able to be victorious. We need to move with our trauma healing arc. And that's why in this specific retreat, like I don't know if I've ever shared this online, but if it could be helpful, I will. I've sponsored spots in quite a few. I'm thinking of 4 right now times where I've sponsored spots for people's healing in other people's retreats. And I won't do that on this one, because this retreat asks for something different. This retreat asks for a different kind of investment.
Yes.
And that's not for every retreat. I think that there's an opportunity at different places of your healing to not have to create so much for yourself and to be able to lean into what's available in the world. This is not that. And I think that's something that's really important. A big part of the intake process of this retreat, and this retreat is, in general, is a birthing ground for a new reality. And that means it's for people who are ready to make a really large shift in capacity. It's for people who are ready to ignite their will, their ratzon, their desire in ways that they might have never done before in this lifetime. It's for people who are ready to create the reality that they want to live in. I have more than one client. I'm thinking, again, of 4 people who, they wanted to work with me really badly, and they didn't see the ability. The prices were not what they were able to think about for themselves. And I remember one of them was like, my husband, he doesn't know how to create anything for me. He can't figure it out for me. And he's not giving me the money or whatever it is. And then this woman, one of them that I'm thinking about, she got herself a job, not just a job in something that her soul has been calling her that she didn't even know. And now she created everything she could have possibly created before she even came on the retreat, because she's living in her soul's purpose casually. And then she came on the retreat and great, whatever. But that's the opportunity. It's a larger opportunity than maybe you've ever had to contend with before. And what you receive is something, if you choose, if you're willing, is something that you could never imagine is possible for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like that's the ticket in this one. It's like activating the will to create the new reality that you now see as possible, because you have access to the touch point of what that could look like and the embodiment of what that feels like. And so then you go into your life, not learning a theory, but being all that you have become in this process, because now you are that already. And so now you just be this iteration of self that is in the embodiment of your own possibilities, and just be that light in this universe and create the business that you want to, and the relationships that you desire, and the, I don't know, whatever new experience you wanted to create. Now you just do it. Now you just are.
Sure. And I want to be that kind of catalyst. That's the role that I want to play in the world right now. That might change, but that's what I want. And that's what I'm going to do. And talk about the topic of our podcast, like going against the tide. It's unconventional what we do on the retreats, the level that we do this work, the kinds of ways in which
I'm thinking about just, there are so many moments on the retreat where we're just like in a process, and the way that it looks, it's like, how would I explain this to anyone? People are like, what did you do on the retreat? I'm like, how do I explain this? Like, how do I explain this embodiment that we're all like in this moment, which seems, it's sometimes ironic, hilarious, just so many different things. And yet like we're moving energy, like massive, like mountains are moving, and like you feel it, and everyone feels it, and we are elated through that experience, and not in a way that we are outside of our body, but in a way that we are like deeply grounded in this experience together and witnessing each other, and which is also, I think, such a powerful part of this work, as being witnessed in the work that you're doing by sisters who can really have the capacity to support you, hold you, encourage you, delight in you, be excited for you. Like the abundant energy is so palpable. Like that idea of the outside world, of the scarce mentality that like, if you're going to have something, then I have to step on someone else in order to get what I need. It's like that energy is not in this circle.
Not present in this resonance.
This resonance is so soul. It's so soul. It's like, it's really just like, all I desire when I look at each person in their eyes is like the most of everything possible in this world, because that's what I truly desire for you. And it's reciprocated. It's like this beautiful reflection. We are all a beautiful reflection of each other. And it's just such a feminine, empowering, real in this lifetime. It's like you feel the realness of it. You feel you feel your own body in the experience, and the stretch in your own heart, and your own in your own love, in your own desire for it. It's so beautiful. It really is so beautiful.
And I will share that, there's two things that I'll share. One is that because of the boundaries and because of my desire to create this kind of container, there isn't a lot of resistance in the field. People are coming because they want to be there. Like sometimes you can go to a healing group and there's one person in the group who has resistance because whatever their defense mechanisms are, and again, like no judgment. Trauma comes along with all kinds of ways that we be as humans. But I create way too many barriers to entry for anyone not to have their will fully activated before they're there, which means that everyone there is just willing to be soft, to be vulnerable, to speak up for themselves, to use this opportunity to the fullest, to not people please, to use every moment as a teaching moment, to create their life. Everyone there is there with such a radical self-ownership and responsibility and love and like wholesomeness because of that. And like we were laughing on the retreat, how there's no one there on the retreat just coming to check it out.
Right.
There's way too many barriers to entry than that. They won't, even if they could have fooled me, they're not investing that much time and finances and all that into themselves just to check something out. And that makes this space to be a space where everyone there is fully 2 feet in, whole hearts in, ready and willing to show up for themselves and each other. And one of the questions that I ask is, are you willing to put your whole entire heart and soul? I asked this on the interviews in someone else's process. I said, this is not just about you. And I know you're investing a lot of money and a lot of time. And most of the time you're going to be spending immersed in somebody else's, midwifing somebody else into their new reality. And every single one, the people that join say yes. And some people say no. They say, no, I'm at this point that I want it to be about myself. And I'm not. And then they're not a good fit. And then we both agree that they're not going to come on this retreat, because this is a process of people who want to stretch their nervous system's capacity. And they recognize that we are all connected, and that when we could expand our capacity to be with somebody else and still hold ourselves, we're doing the work of generations. And the other thing I wanted to say is that this woman who's actually coming to the retreat in January, which is fully sold out, she shared with me that she wanted to come to Tuscany, and she applied, and she was in a process of deciding, and it ended up not being the right time for her. But she shared with me, she said, I want to thank you because the application process to Tuscany already changed my life. She said, my husband shared with me, he's wow, like you're just like popping off and you're just like showing up in a completely new way just from an application process, just from a conversation. And when we start to learn how impactful we all are, not just me, not just you, all of us, and that's something that we learn on the retreat, then we can make we all can make that kind of impact in the world in every single communication that we have with every single person, whether or not we're getting anything from them, whether or not we're even talking to them for another minute after that moment. And that's what I'm the most excited about, what we're creating, because yeah, it's true. 7 to 10 souls, 12 souls, depending on the retreat, have this experience, choose this experience for themselves. But every single person who they speak to after that, they impact in tremendous ways, way beyond themselves.
Totally. This is a work that trickles and overflows into all aspects and all ways. And I know that we get messages all the time from people who just hear about the thing that we're doing and they're like, I feel the energy all the way wherever I am in the world of the work that you're doing. And I can't pinpoint what it is, but something feels lighter and something feels more alive inside of me, or whatever that is. So it's like, it really, when you're working with energy, doesn't really have any boundaries. And so when you're really honoring energy in the way that we do on these retreats, we are, sending out this wavelength that is now accessible for anyone who wants to tap in, touch into, receive inside of their own lives. And it's really
that's quantum healing. That's healing beyond, that's quantum healing. And when you combine quantum healing with groundedness,
yes,
you create the experience of heaven on earth, not a flowery, floaty, it's always perfect heaven on earth. No, a permission-filled, human-filled experience of choice in every single moment of how I want to live my life. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So I want us to talk a little bit into constellation work specifically, because the way that you run these retreats in a micro level of the group that we're together with, how you run that as a constellation, but also on a macro level, how we've had 7 retreats until now and how every one of those actually poured medicine into the next opportunity that came through. And I want to talk about what that means and what that's like.
Okay, beautiful. So I think the word is actually limiting for what we're doing. I think we're actually creating something beyond constellations. I actually think that we don't fully have a name for it yet. And not everything needs to be labeled and named, but I just want to name that.
Yes. In the way that we understand it now, let's say that. Yeah.
This is something, there's nothing new under the sun, as it says in the Torah. And also what we're creating is definitely unprecedented in this specific arena and in the specific way that we're doing it. And I'm excited to see like what this becomes and how I can break it down so that other people can bring it into their retreats. But what I will share is that, so one of the things that I'm trained in and that I do on these retreats is a family constellation. Usually one of each participant, we didn't talk about this part. We do group work and individual work, which means that we do work as a group, work like rebirthing in the pool, breath work, meditation, somatic work. We do all kinds of resonance work with the group, creating heart coherence, HTBT had to be there. But there's a lot of group work that we do. And each and every person on the retreat receives their own individual facilitation. And they create what it is that they need to create on a nervous system level, on a body level, on a soul level, on an energetic level, on a relational level, and on a trauma healing level, if that's necessary for them, for the entire group. So every person in front of the entire group. So everybody kind of holds space while they do this process. And it could take 2 to 3 hours or longer. So and sometimes we join in with different kinds of singing or dancing or energy movements, or we are just watching their process unfold. And we use all different kinds of modalities for that. It's beyond modalities, this work, but we do use some modalities like family constellations work, where someone will receive a constellation, different kinds of breath, hypnotherapy, womb regressions, quantum energy healing work, somatic healing, body work. I'll do quite a bit of body work in that space. Some of it intuitive, some of it specific modalities. I just think it's important to share that.
Yes.
But The way family constellations works essentially is that you create a field of coherence, which means that everybody really commits to being there. And then you drop into the field that we all have access to at all times. It's just one layer deeper of consciousness. And what happens is that people start making soul movements, moved by what starts moving through them. And your family or your parts or your internal parts or some theme that's playing out in your life that there's some stuckness in starts playing out. And what we do is that it reveals everything that is happening. And through just allowing it to move through and not be separate, not be exiled, the story, things start to heal and things start to move again in the field. I run my entire retreat like a constellation. So it's not necessarily a family constellation, but in that deeper layer of consciousness. So I am tracking the field for 5 days, which means that every single thing that happens, every single movement that somebody makes, every single thing that happens matters. So what is constellations? If you think about like astrology, right, which many people in the world are starting to understand and learn about, when one planet moves in relation to another planet, something else happens, right?
Right.
And similarly, when I make a move and then you do or don't make a move, something does or doesn't happen. And we start to live our life in this deeper way where we understand that nothing is by chance and everything is hashgacha pratis. Everything is orchestrated by our will and the divine will that moves through us. And the more we understand this, the more we activate our will, the free will that we have access to, so that we can choose to make choices in accordance with the divine will. And we can choose to move our lives once again in the natural flow of life and where life is actually taking us naturally. So what people experience after the retreats is that they don't go back. Even though we forget, we remember, we expand. We forget, we remember, we expand. We're always forgetting and remembering and expanding because we're human. But you can't unsee what you see when you're experiencing life for 5 days on this level of consciousness. And I know personally that I live my life in that way. Every single conversation that I have with a friend, every single moment, every action that I take, every action that I don't take. And that creates an experience of feeling the divine move through your life a lot more easily than if you're living life even one layer of consciousness differently. So that's a little bit about running this retreat in this way. And there are specific ways in which I do it that's different than a family constellation that I'm still learning how to share so that I can hopefully one day teach it to others, because it is an extraordinarily powerful way to run a retreat.
Yes, absolutely. Would you be able to share the titles of all the retreats that have been so far, just so that we can get a little bit into the embodiment of what it means for one constellation to move into the other, like how one thing informs the next that informs the next?
Yeah, I'm going to share, and I'll also share that besides for the frequency of freedom, which is our theme, each retreat, we're constellating a theme, which is usually something that comes like through for me when I sit with myself in meditation. And also what I do is, after all the applications are in and everybody's accepted, I sit for an hour around each participant. So I allow whatever wants to move through me, I sit in meditation and stillness. So I sit for myself, I sit for you, Chani, I sit for everybody in the experience, and I also sit for the retreat itself. Sometimes for people who are not there that I want to include in the space. So the preparation of it is very immense. In order to, hopefully, my desire is to clear my vessel as much as possible from my own preconceived notions around how things should go, and allow what Hashem wants to move through me in order to create the most profound experience and the most transformative and the most safe, because we don't know nothing. We're just a channel to the source of all things, who has all of life's secrets and mysteries and information. And Hashem is only going to reveal to us what Hashem chooses to reveal to us. So each retreat, we worked through a different theme. And what that did is that it actually poured medicine for the next retreat. I know that could be seem like a very esoteric thing to say, but every single movement that we do created the birthing ground for what we did on the next retreat. So someone who's going to come on this retreat in January, our 8th retreat, they're going to receive all the foundational work that everyone has done before them without even knowing that they're ready for that, because that's how the quantum works. That's how consciousness works. So let me open up to the themes. So the first retreat we ever did, we called The More Beautiful World Your Heart Knows Is Possible, which is the title of a book by Charles Eisenstein that I really love. And we worked with that theme. The second one we did, The Answer to the 1,000-Year-Old Promise. I'm not going to get into it, but that was the theme that we constellated. The third one, it was You Are the Promise. And no, that's still the second one. You are the promising, you are the blessing. The third one was The Possibility in the Universe. The fourth was the return of prayer, faith, and divine certainty and the energy of Nachshon ben Aminadav. The fifth was the restoration of the tree of life, the restoring balance of the Sphirot. That was what we did in Spot. The sixth is the abundance on the other side of the illusions. Still hanging out with that one a bit. And the seventh was, sorry, I'm getting a little confused about numbers, but the next one was the restoration of divine will. And the one that we just did now, I just mixed up the numbers a bit, so forgive me. But the seventh, the one that we just did now, was the return of the sacred marriage, and within and without. And we went in and we constantly the theme, and it was work, and it was challenging, and it was beautiful, and it was confronting, and it was profound, and it was elation creating. And essentially the theme is that the active will, the Zeir Anpin in Kabbalah, it says the divine masculine descends, making the divine feminine, the Shekhinah, feel safe to rise. And they do both of these things at the same time in our vessel, our body. When we can learn to return to radical self-love plus reinstation of our divine will, we create a balance like we might have not known before for many, many generations. And it really was like a rearranging of reality. And we, many times over and over again in the work that we did, really reclaimed/claimed our wholeness, which is what rearranges reality. So
Yes.
yeah. So in this retreat, what we did was we gathered the fragmented sparks of our soul scattered through fear, doubt, shame, separation, trauma, others, our enmeshment with others, return them to themselves, and remember that we're no longer a fragment, but we're part of the living blueprint of life. We're part of the one, or a piece of Hashem. And that begins like that sacred marriage where the Zeir Anpin, the divine masculine, the will, the structure, the action descends, and the Shekhinah rises, right? There are some people in the world who are like really in their feminine and they're like flowing, but they can't get their act together. They can't ever create things into form. They're not actually doing the thing that they say that they want to do. And then there are people who are like doing and going and not stopping, but they're not experiencing the pleasure of life. They're not experiencing the pulse of life. They're not experiencing themselves in their body. They're afraid that if they stop, everything will fall apart. And we're creating this powerful marriage of both and restoring incredible balance into our vessel and into our beings.
Yes. And so it was. And so it is.
So it was. Frequency of freedom.
Yes. L'chaim. Yeah. Wow. I feel like we really covered a lot of ground here. We really got a full, cohesive understanding of what it is to be in a container in this most beautiful way. And I'd love to just end off maybe with some final closing remarks.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have, you wanted to share something?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I'll end off, I'll share a little bit of a poem that I think could take people into what it feels like to be in this resonance, to be in this frequency. And then I think that we make another podcast or two where, we'll explore more facets of this podcast. We really got to cover a little bit. I think people won't have to guess. There's a little bit more of an understanding of what's happening here. And some people listening to this will be like, I don't get it at all. And some people listening to this will be like, yeah, this is my place. Okay. Yeah, I fully understand. I'm picking up what they're putting down. So this is a bit more of a niche podcast, but we are learning to be visible. So, and to share what it's like to do things that are a little bit different than the tide. And really what's different than the tide, quote unquote, sometimes is going with the tide of what really is nature. And
Right. It's almost like the opposite of what it would feel like. It's like going against the tide means I need to kind of conform to something that doesn't feel natural, whereas natural would be just like let yourself spill into what's coming through and trust this divine flow and let yourself own it. Let yourself be the channel for it and trust it implicitly. Yeah.
So I will read the poem. Every time you open fully, you become a doorway. Every time you let the wild, creative, uninhibited, alive you lead, the world remembers how to pray. Others remember who they are too, and what makes their own heart beat faster in their chest. So come, not polished, not perfect, but pulsing, messy, holy. Come as the thunder and stillness you are. Come as the woman who remembers that God moves through her too, not only above her. Every time you breathe like it matters, the earth exhales with you. Every time you walk barefoot on the soil of your own becoming, something ancient opens its eyes. You are not here to polish yourself into perfection. You are here to be lived by the mystery. So let yourself crack. Let yourself bloom anyway. Let God find its way through your laughter, your hunger, your trembling hands, your tears, your pleasure, your joy, your allowing. Every time you allow your desires, walk with intention, honor yourself and your commitments, something awakens in all of us. We are all connected, deeper than we will ever know in our minds. Do not try to dim for the world's comfort. The flame in you is older than fear. It is the same one that burnt at Sinai, that whispered to Miriam to dance. And she did. Be the fire that prays by living. Be the song that heals by being sung. You are the remembering and the miracle. Let your longing be your map. Let your softness be your altar. This is how the holy finds form. Through the ones who dare to stay open, who choose to show, not only tell, what it means to be oh so human and the possibility in the entire universe.
Wow. Offering to rewind and listen as many times as you'd like, because that is a gorgeous meditation as well as a fantastic poem. Thank you, Rivky.
Thank you.
And we'll sign off until next time.
See you
Mwah.
soon.
Love you all.
Love you.
We are so humbled and delighted to have you with us. Our podcast is Real Life in Real Time, where we embark on curious conversations that expand our awareness and capacity for all that is possible.
The Possibility of the Universe podcast is only possible because of you, our audience. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for listening. I'm Chani. First and foremost, I am a believer. I am a wife. I am a mother of 6 beautiful children, and I am the owner of Grassroots Brooklyn, an experiential art collective and floral atelier. I am also a life coach working with both individuals and couples to empower them to step into all of their own possibilities in this universe. You can find me on Instagram at Makom Sanctuary and on my website, www.grassrootsbklyn.com.
Hi, I'm Rivky, and I love life. I love heart-centered living. I love to be curious. and I love to connect with all things. I started off as a social worker and developmental therapist, and now I work as a somatic and subconscious practitioner using modalities such as somatic healing, breathwork, bodywork, hypnotherapy, and some really magical and incredible quantum healing technologies. I work with individuals, couples, run retreats and courses using these modalities to help people find the most freedom, presence, aliveness, and embodiment inside of their lives. The ways to contact us are through my website, rivkygross.com. That is spelled RIVKY dash, the straight line dash, gross, GROSS.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Chani at Muckhome Sanctuary, and myself at Rivky Gross. We are here for any and all questions and feedback through the contact form on the website, and we're so looking forward to hearing from you.